Okay, so we're going to review some of the present tense conjugations that we have gone over since September, and including back in 7th and 8th grade. So follow along on your sheet and fill them in. You're going to use this as a review card and a resource from here on in. So we're going to start off with regular verb endings. You probably remember the AR endings that you first learned, right? They are o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Make sure you have the accent over the A in the vosotros. And for ER, all you need to do is take the AR endings and change the A's to E's. So it would look like O, es, a, amos, es, en, accent over the E in the vosotros. Once you're there, you can easily come up with the IR endings, which are the same as ER endings except for the nosotros and vosotros. And it goes o, es, a, imos, is, en. Okay, those are regular verb endings. Then we're going to go over some irregular verbs. The first one, tener, is going to be tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen. Make sure you're spelling these correctly because you're going to use this as a resource. The next verb we're going to go over is the verb ir, to go. And those conjugations are all very different than the regular verb, right? It's just all of them have the V. Voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. No accent marks over any of those conjugations. So again, if you need to pause the video to make sure you're writing them in correctly, do so and make sure they're legible so that you can read it and use it as a resource. Okay, we've got two more in just a second. We've got ser versus a star. So we've talked about this a bit this year. Remember that even though ser and a star both correspond to the English verb to be, their uses are very different in Spanish. So first of all, we're going to talk about the conjugations for ser. You should remember these. It's soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. Again, no accents on any of those guys. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. And the reasons for using ser correspond to the acronym STOP, right? So S for ser, T for time, day, or date. O for origin, he is from. P, profession, she is a teacher. P, possession, the book is mine, that would be a ser. And then personality, physical traits is the last one, something that describes what the object is actually made of and what it is. Okay, the next one is estar, and we know the conjugations for these are also a little different. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. Remember that there are 4 accents over these guys. The bottom 2 rows, the tú, él, usted, and the vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes, all get accents over them. Okay, and the reasons for using a star correspond to the acronym the ELF, right? The T in this case stands for temporary conditions. It's for example, the weather, talking about the weather or something like that. That's usually a star if it's not hace. Happening now, the ing, right? She is reading. The letter E stands for emotions, how they're feeling, how they're doing. Estar is the second E, and the L in ELF is location. And then the F is feelings. So you can put a little star next to that location. Remember, however, if you're talking about where an event takes place, that would be ser. Okay? So next we've got our stem changing verbs, also known as boot verbs. There are 6 types of them. We're going to briefly go over it. We've got E to IE, like the verb querer, to want. So if you want to pause and give it a try filling it in on your own, you can. Otherwise, just go ahead and fill it in with me as I do it on the video. So it is quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, queréis, quieren. To still get accent over the E in the vosotros. The E to IE is only taking place inside the boot, right? Only these 4 conjugations get the E to IE. Okay, the same thing's going to go on over here with the O to UE for the verb poder, to be able to. And that is puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, podéis, pueden. Again, you see the stem change going on only inside the boot. Outside doesn't get a stem change, right? The next 2 types of boot verbs are U to UE, and really the only verb we're going to practice with this conjugation is jugar, to play. So it's juego, juegas, juega, jugamos, jugáis, juegan. Okay, again, only inside the boot is the change going on. And then we have E to I, like in servir. Okay, so listen closely to this one, because this is one that tends to be a stickler. Sirvo, sirves, sirve, servimos, servis, sirven. Okay, it's E to I, servir. And that's right inside the boot also, right? There's not very many of these guys either, so you should be able to memorize the ones that are included in E to I. And then there is I to Y. So like the verb incluir, and you'll see that the I would just be substituted for the Y. And it gets the regular endings, the O, es, e, imos, is, en, but the I is going to stay in there but change to a Y. So incluyo, incluyes, incluye, incluimos, incluís, incluyen. Okay? And the next group, the last of the 6, is just an extra added accent, like verbs like esquiar. Okay, in this case, all of them except for the nosotros is going to have an accent over it. Esquio, esquias, esquia, esquiamos, esquiáis, esquían. Okay, again, you already have conjugation sheets, pink grammar sheets with these notes on there, so you can always be referring to those as well. This one sheet that we're preparing is just basically a summary of different present tense conjugations. Okay, moving along, we're going to go to the yo verbs. Remember, these are irregular only in the yo form. We're also calling them yogos. The rest of their conjugation is like any other regular verb. Okay, the go verbs have the ending go in the yo form. So we call them yogos, we call them yo verbs, we call them go verbs, and here they are. So you can fill these in. So hacer, to do or make, hago, haces, and then the rest of them are regular. So hago, haces, hace, hacemos, hacéis, hacen. Poner, to put or place or set, pongo, and then pones, pone, ponemos, ponéis, ponen. Salir goes to salgo, right, to leave or to go out. Salgo, and then sales, sale, salimos, salís, salen. Traer, to bring, goes to traigo, right? Traigo, and then traes, trae, traemos, traéis, traen. And then we have caer, to fall, and that is caigo, and then that's the yo form. Goes caigo, and then caes, cae, caemos, caís, caen. And then we've got the verb venir, to come, and that yogo is vengo. But this one gets a little bit extra twist to it. It's also an E to IE inside the boot, except for the yo form. So basically a shoe. So vienes, viene, venimos, venís, vienen. Decir is digo, and then goes dices, dice. This one is also is similar to venir, where inside the boot, except for the yo form, well, inside this is also a boot verb, right? It goes E to I for the decir. So digo, dices, dice, decimos, decís, dicen. Okay? So hopefully those are going to sound familiar to your ears, so you'll be able to produce those easily and sound correctly when you say them. Next group Other verbs that are irregular in the yo form only are dar, saber, ver, and conocer. And here they are, the first two conjugations for each of those. So dar, to give, goes doy, and then das. And the rest of the conjugations are very similar to the ir, the verb ir, right? Voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. This is doy, das, da, damos, dais, dan. Okay, saber, to know a fact or how to do something. The yo form is se, con acento, with an accent. Make sure you have an accent in there. And then the two forms sabes, ver, to see, veo, ves, ve, vemos, veis, ven. Conocer, only irregular in the yo form. So it's conozco, and then conoces, conoce, conocemos, conocéis, conocen. Okay, so those guys are only irregular in the yo form for this verb. Okay, for these verbs, I should say. All right, then finally we've got our reflexive verbs. So remember, reflexive verbs describe an action that a person does to or for himself or herself. And they always end in se when they're in the infinitive. And reflexive verbs use reflexive pronouns, and they are positioned before the conjugated verb. So before the verb when conjugating. So the reflexive pronouns are me, te, se, nos, os, se. So an example of that would be lavarse, to wash oneself. And you would say, me lavo, te lavas, se lava, nos lavamos, os laváis, se lavan. Okay, so that just about completes completes the review sheet. So now you're going to grab the practice sheet and pause the video, use your notes to go ahead and answer those four groups of conjugations. So you'll see the first one pertain to the regular verbs. Do these 6 and then check back and I'll show you the answers. And then the same thing will go for the next 6 and the next 6 and the next 6. So you're going to want to pause the video for each one before I show you the answers. So go ahead and pause. Okay, hopefully you pause the video. Here come your answers. You're going to want to keep track of the ones you got wrong because these categories, you're going to need to know which categories you need to study more. Okay, so if you ace the regular verbs, then you can feel pretty confident with your regular verb conjugations, maybe review them a little bit. Okay, here comes your next group. Be sure to pause it. Okay, so hopefully you have paused it and you are, oh my gosh. Hopefully you have paused it and are able to see how your conjugations went. Here we go. If you got them wrong, make sure you're paying attention to which ones you need to review. And we're going on to the next section. Be sure to pause it. These are boot verbs, so be sure to pause this. Okay, hopefully you pause the video because here come your answers. Remember, these are boot verbs, so inside the boot there is a change. Outside of the boot there is no change. Okay, if you had troubles on this one, put a star next to it so you know which ones you need to study. Okay, this would be a group you'd want to take a look at, an extra look at. The next group is the irregular yo verbs. Again, pause the video. Okay, hopefully you took a chance to test yourself. You paused the video and let's check how you did. There's your answers. If you have troubles on these, make sure you're putting a star next to this so you know that this is the group you may have to review. Okay. Next set are the reflexives. So remember, when you're doing these are reflexive verbs. Reflexive verbs must have a reflexive pronoun. So don't forget that part, and it goes before the conjugated verb. Take a minute to pause the video and do this one on your own before I show you the answers. Okay, so hopefully you took a second to pause the video, and here come your answers. Remember, for 4, 6, and 7, did you notice that they were stem changers also, boot verbs? So here come your answers. Yo me baño, ellos se duchan, tú te secas, ella se despierta, nosotros nos cortamos, yo me acuesto, ustedes se visten. Okay, same here. If you had any problems, make sure you star it and are checking out practices for the groups that you need to review more. Thanks very much.